Is traditional product management becoming obsolete? AI is fundamentally reshaping the entire product management workflow, forcing some tough questions. How technical do you really need to be to manage an AI product? Are tools like Bolt or V0 actually killing classic prototyping? What core skills now define a truly effective product leader? We're diving into these questions, the pitfalls, and the new rules for AI user experience. Essential insights for PMs and important for anyone building with AI. And the biggest question remains, are you prepared for the shift? Welcome to episode 37 of Tool Use, the weekly conversation about AI tools and strategies to empower forward-thinking minds, brought to you by Enetic. I'm Mike Bird, and this week we're joined by Elina Lesyk, an AI consultant and the host of the AI Ketchup podcast. Elina, welcome to Tool Use.
Thanks, Mike, for inviting. My pleasure to be with you and actually finally see Tuffin and my face being close to each other, because I was checking the previous episodes of yours and that always looked so lovely. I love the icon.
My favorite bird. They're great. Do you want to give us a little background? How did you get into AI and what led to this path of consulting?
Gladly. So I actually started my journey into AI, well, by accident, as probably many guests of your podcast would probably say. But for me, the accident has happened when I was invited to a data science conference, and that was the actually Canadian professor who was delivering the workshops with regards to rather typical regression, rather traditional classification problems. But for me, at that time, it was definitely wow, as it was for probably 300 people in the audience. And at that time, I was working at EY, so a Big Four company, and definitely looking into something that I was then doing at the weekends was, well, not anymore Excel formulas, but was already Python. Code was definitely very, very different to what auditors and consultants at EY were doing. And that is why my fascination has actually started with this efficiency that artificial intelligence generally brings to you. But then it slowly transitioned also into the human part of it. And that is why I have been in different constellations looking into the human interactions between AI and something that we want to solve. And that is probably why I am here. I'm with you, and I'm still within the context of AI, gladly seeing also the bigger and bigger attention to the field, but at the same time, a bigger and bigger understanding of how to apply AI to our everyday tasks.
Absolutely. And it is really curious how so many people from different walks of life are just kind of honed in on this. Was there a single product, was it ChatGPT that kind of got you into it? Or what was your like aha moment for seeing AI as the future?
Honestly, I think that was again Excel. Because back then we were already trying to build, and again, 8 years ago, BI was a thing, but still, yeah, Power BI was probably not even probably haven't had any web version. So it was sort of the thing that you're downloading on your laptop and then you're trying to make the first dashboards. But then for me, actually business intelligence and the beauty of getting the, well, you would call it patterns, but again, it's also just the general terms of what you see within the data that has brought me in, and also how you can make the data-driven decision-making.
Very cool. And today, your day-to-day life for your work, what tools do you tend to resort to or have helped you kind of become more efficient?
From the interesting ones, because again, definitely I'm having probably all model providers in my everyday stack. Claude was always my companion for a very long time, so I have been the big Anthropic fan. Well, back then when ChatGPT has just started. Also because I have had the colleagues that have been working directly with Anthropic from AWS. And that is why this partnership has brought Anthropic also into my life, and also me reading very, very closely the articles and the thinking behind what is being built within Claude. But then I do use Otter, I do use Granola, I do use different email classification systems. I am a big fan of N8N, which is not directly AI tool, but somehow has gotten into the space. And I'm also definitely the big fan of the open source frameworks that I would be also glad to share and mention. Maybe we can add it also into your show notes in the podcast. But the browser use, so that is the open source framework that is currently backed by Y Combinator, which is close to computer use or operator, but at the same time open source, meaning that, well, more things that we can configure. So I would say that that is it. At the same time, I'm still seeing so many tools that I'm lacking. It is crazy.
It's never-ending waterfall of one's coming out. I actually haven't played too much with N8N, but like you said, it's always kind of in the peripheral because I think the ability to allow no-code solutions do expose it to a wider audience. I recently talked to the guys that did Strawberry Browser, and it is cool being able to take these things that have been almost exclusive for like techies or developers, part of their workflow, and start introducing it to everyone else. It is a slow, gradual process. I'm glad that your team open source because having the ability to kind of see under the hood, take away like the mystique of a black box and be able to actually see where your data is going, see how it's being processed, even get some insights to the prompts and whatnot is massively helpful for people to be able to learn and understand and grow with this technology. Because while a lot of people just want to kind of plug it in, turn it on and use it, there is this innate curiosity being like, what is the magic behind this? And when you really dig into it, it peels back some of those layers. Would you say that people who aren't necessarily overly technical, that are just, casual computer users, maybe knowledge workers, are they at the point where they can start adopting AI into their professional workflow, or is it still kind of at the hobby tier for those kind of professions?
Well, the thing is that everyone has expected it from Copilot, haven't we? And at the same time, I can see that from the colleagues of mine in different companies where the Copilot is within the default package, it is still not being used that actively. And it is very interesting to me, even though it is there, right? I'm also seeing, though, many companies actually getting into the topic of cursor and vibe coding on the level of teams and on the level of using it, not only even for prototyping, but also even on the next levels. So yes, for sure. Introducing these tools into more than personal efficiency is something that I'm observing. However, I still see that mostly within the, tech-savvy companies. Then they have been already producing software in certain way before, and now they are just doing it with more efficiency. But for the companies for whom the core business is not that, the introduction of AI tooling is still something challenging.
Yep. I have a good buddy. He does sales, and their sales director ended up buying everyone a Cursor subscription and saying, hey, if you think of a tool that might make your job easier, just build it. Go for it. Spend a couple hours and vibe code your way through it. And it's really taking, it's democratizing the ability of creating software solutions, which is exciting. But I would like to pull this into product management. I spent a little stint as a product manager, and because I had a background of being a software developer for about 8 years at that point, I was able to kind of speak both languages, which was helpful. But now, what degree of technical knowledge do you feel product managers need to have in this new AI world?
I think that is the probably most Googleable question currently, because there are so many people who are in the peripheral between business and technology. And at the same time, we are definitely lacking data scientists. And at the same time, we are willing to solve business problems. That is why if I have previously seen so many questions with regards to, okay, how can I start with AI? I can currently see the question on how can I build with AI without understanding machine learning? And when it comes to the technical understanding, I have had, I would say the honor to deliver several bigger webinars to the audience of around 100, 150 product managers. And what is interesting about these types of product managers were that they were coming from the companies who were from e-commerce segment, meaning that these product managers were very technical per definition. So they were not anymore within the coordination of tasks, but they were going way deeper than that. And then for them, it is still the question, how technical should I be? What things should I learn about? Yes, I don't want to learn the linear math from the beginning, so how can I jump into it? And I think that for me, the clear two types of product managers that I have observed were actually was the one that was very close to everything, meaning that, oh, I just don't understand that. I won't be able to understand that. And another one. And that another one was very curious one. Well, probably not diving into linear math, but trying things out. And that was, I think, something that was the best way of approaching the whole field. Because let's agree, even we, the people that are interacting with tools and technologies and models on the daily basis. We don't keep up, and that is normal. We are trying to keep up within the areas that are relevant to us. And that is the same for product managers. And that is where the challenge comes in. So you can be curious, but for the company, generally, your curiosity should be aligned with the direction that the company is going into. And that is another thing that I'm observing. So the typical approach of product managers, depending on how you have been doing that, but of course, understanding customer pains, right? And then that is where I have also seen so many product managers looking into the, okay, here are my customer pains. Here are the certain jobs to be done. How should I match the AI technologies to them? And I have seen this, I don't know how many times already. Also trying to find the reports from someone like Gartner and McKinsey and trying to map the common use cases and common adoption ways to to problems that I'm currently observing with the product that I'm building. And I'm not sure whether that is the way of getting the skills that are necessary. To me, what I was recommending to the product managers that I have been working with was to think more about the, let's call it the way of interacting, the way of connecting to the users. And to be more specific, if we are thinking about certain product, let's think that we are building a new Twilio. So the company that has been there for some time, probably now trying to get into AI. I would be probably thinking, not from the perspective, shall I right now build a new voice model? Because, well, in general, we are working with call centers and so on. I would be indeed looking more into what tasks my current customers are solving and whether there are certain ways that I can add different other flavors to it. Maybe if my customers are currently sharing the problems with me that they are experiencing with the product through email, I can start indeed gathering the data through phone calls. Maybe without the full-blown voice model that will be responding to those problems, but maybe just gathering. Because again, we both know that if we are seeing the problem with the product that we are using, it is rather challenging, or like you kind of, well, I don't like how they have built that, but that's it. You don't really go into, okay, where is the feedback button? What should I do? But then opening the door, opening the ear to a different way of sharing feedback and also solving a certain customer task is something to consider. And that is not where you need machine learning directly, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I love just maintaining everything around the customer centricity of it. That's key for product managers. Talk to your customers, understand their pain points. You mentioned earlier you use granola. I'm a fan of granola. I think it's really good at allowing you to be more like immersed in the conversation, not worrying about taking notes. If there's something you want to note, you can add to it, but it just allows you to really be present and having this thing take your notes that you can query after. Have you found, whether it's through user studies, user interviews, or another aspect of product management, any tools that people should be aware of other than granola?
So I'm currently thinking, of course, about the tools that are more within the same segment, right? Let me think about it, because I kind of have the whole AI toolkit that I do maintain in terms of the tools that I find better than ChatGPT or comparable tools, because it is always the question, should I use the tool and get into it? Or should I use something where, well, probably that is also the features that might be available from the bigger providers by definition. But at the same time, for example, what I'm definitely using instead of opening ChatGPT to do something. So when it comes to images and when it comes to videos, I do have my favorites. So for example, I do really like Leonardo AI, and I don't think that I will be switching even with the whole functionality of ChatGPT that we have seen with the studio. I don't think that I will be switching directly now to using only ChatGPT for image generation tasks. But for me, I think that is always also the question of how much you want to be dependent on the tool, or how much you want to actually build the wrapper around LLM itself. And I'm afraid that I tend to go into the latter, from the perspective of seeing how many solutions have indeed been then unusable after just, a a bit. But I would also, maybe it is just, like the willingness to build it from scratch that is also exciting.
Yeah, there's, especially with the ability to get into it, the barriers being reduced. It is exciting to kind of build your own thing. There's also, I think, something to be said about the willingness of experimenting. You mentioned curiosity. Just be willing to try new tools, because I'm under the belief that if you overly commit to a single tool right now, you're probably going to get left behind, because there's so much surface area that we're starting to explore that you kind of need to be adaptive and agile and be able to transfer your workflow to a new tool. I would love it if there were more open source offerings that kind of focused around the bring your own key, where I could just pop in my Anthropic key. Oh, Gemini 2.5 Pro is now way better. Let me switch over that key, and it keeps the same interface. But I think everything is kind of in flux there, so I hope to see more than that.
That's actually interesting. And I think that is a very valid point to think about if someone from your audience wants to start a new tool and wants to go into the space of AI startups. You can be a very good rapper, but you can indeed concentrate on bringing the domain expertise into the field, and then be the one where you will be used regardless of what model you're running on the background. I think that I have several examples of the interesting tools in the space of education for that. So the ones that would be, for example, generating the whole canvas or the whole mind map with images, with maybe some relevant YouTube videos. That would be based on your question. Or the tools that, for example, are specifically suited for writers. You might think, well, that is the traditional task of text, right? So why don't I do that with ChatGPT? But then you are looking into the tools that were built by writers in the field, and then you realize that, oh, there has been a lot of thinking put into something behind the LLM. And the whole process of, the tool that I'm referring to was more for fiction. So you are starting the chapter, and then it suggests you several ways of where the story can go. But that is not exactly what you can get with even like the functionality of several different stories going into different directions. It is not exactly what ChatGPT is thinking about, because it is not within the writer mindset. And then if you're thinking about, okay, if I'm the writer, what direction I want to go, that is where the tool can be helpful, right? And with education, again, there are different ways how we learn at the best form. And that is something that can be put into the product. Very similar things with healthcare, very similar things with finance, very similar things with legal tech. And the tools in this spaces where you can bring the domain expertise into the field are definitely the ones that I will be opting in rather than for the general things that we can both sit on one evening, or as we expect one, but then it turns into 5, 6, and 7 evenings of building something from scratch.
Excellent point with the domain expertise. That's going to be people's differentiator, along with a community around a product, the type of distribution, but being able to actually live through an experience, say, this is how we solve this problem optimally, it's going to be so much better than a generalist tool. Where you use the writing example. I've used Lex, Lex.page, which is a great writing assistant. And it's not just having a conversation with ChatGPT. Like you said, it's made by writers for writers. They understand the pain points, understand what type of prompts and direction needs to be going to help you get to your objective. And these people are working on it all the time. A lot of brilliant people working on that. So being able to find the right tool for the job, I think is just going to be an ongoing thing. There's more popping up every single day. And it's an exciting time to be, exploring and curious.
And that is definitely where we probably should also bring the topic of feedback loop in. Because if you are within the domain expertise field, then you probably are working with specialists who are guiding the product development. If you are building something having less of specialization per definition, but more of software solution, then the ways how you are interacting with your customers are defining. So if I'm using the 1001 tools for writing social media posts, the ones that stick would probably be the ones where I'm able to give the feedback to what I see and I'm missing in the tool, and then I'm hearing something back. Those are the tools that I will be sticking with, because then I know, well, they are still not perfect, but they are hearing and they are willing to improve.
Yep, massive differentiator, a lot more than just a thumbs up, thumbs down. At Enetic, we have a daily report, Enetic Daily Intelligence, and users are able to reply with changes they like to see to the report, different topics they want to, and then it's automatically processed. So it's a direct interaction where every day you can give feedback to get this really tightly tailored report to match your interests. And I do feel that the barriers to be able to receive this customer feedback is going to reduce further, where you can infer some things, based on the user's action, do this. But I think people want to be educated and get involved with the process, where they're willing to hop on a quick call, say, this is what I'm looking for. This is how I use it. Can you make it for me? And then we can iterate quickly. So I think it's really primed to be the age of startups. Do you have any insights on good approaches for gathering this feedback? Do you like to just send over an email, set up a call, or is there any strategies you have to help product managers out with that?
Well, the interesting part is that the best feedback loops are hidden. So I think that Canva is doing a lot in this space when they are indeed doing A/B testing, and you don't even see that, but you start reaching to a certain goal of maybe exporting the file that you're working on faster. And that is something that is being measured. But at the same time, it is not, oh, do you want to share more? And then there is the field of typing a feedback that you never do. If folks from the Riverside hear this, as we are recording on the Riverside, that is another thing where I'm always seeing that Riverside is willing to, it's trying, like, you first rate the certain clip that has been generated, but then you're supposed to type the text. And then they lose, and yeah, I don't always have the time to type the text. That is why they lose the whole thing that I was doing there. So the rating is lost together with the text. And probably the rating would still be rather valuable in this case. And then for me to probably click through several categories of what I liked or what I disliked instead of typing could be helpful. But that is probably the ways of how to gather feedback fast. When it comes to longer feedback loops, that can be possible. Again, I know that back in the day, we haven't had the practice of having user research departments. And user research departments have been strongly under budget constraints. But now, when I'm thinking about that, and if the budget of user research for paid consultations with potential users is very limited, then I'm also questioning whether the company understands the value of getting the qualified user feedback. And that is probably where experienced product managers could come in and try to push for that experiments. But again, for that, you also need to have the drive to change the culture and to change the ways how the processes have been established, which is challenging.
Yeah, and I feel that advice applies to builders and entrepreneurs as well as product managers, where you have to talk to the customer. Last week we had Stefania Druga on, and she mentioned how just watch your customers use their product. Actually, just whether it's recorded or you're physically there, some way to actually see how people use it. Where do they click? Where do they go? What assumptions do they make? Because we all have our blind spots, and it's a product manager's duty to kind of unravel this. One thing you touched on was Canva, which I think they've done great stuff, but there's talk around the practicality of doing like low fidelity mockups or even like relatively high fidelity mockups to present to people, when now we have tools like Bolt and V0 where you can actually spin up a functional prototype. Do you have any thoughts on how that is changing the way prototyping is working in the product space?
To be honest, the best response that I am able to convey when it comes to, okay, how will it be with vibe coding and so on, I'm pretty sure that the low code solutions are there to be. And what I mean by that is that the prototyping done will be even brought to production by product managers without involving IT people. I have already seen that happening in several e-commerce companies that were indeed releasing the chatbots to their users without any involvement of the IT people, because they of course have been under time constraints. And then for product managers, with the willingness to validate the ideas, because they didn't know for sure whether that chatbot would be helpful or not, to release the prototype to the customer was simpler than to try to get that into their epics and to try to steal the time from software developers. I'm pretty sure that Conway's law applies, meaning that we would need more and more different smaller features and smaller things that are added to the product that we are creating, and that Bolton v0 will be there for the ideas that are probably more on the innovator's dilemma side, for the validation, for understanding how the customers see that and how they interact with that.
I agree that it's becoming more prevalent, and the developer me gets concerned about things like security and privacy in that regard. Having the engineer proof check before things go out really helps expose some technical learnings which might not exist in the product realm. Do you have any advice for product managers who want to ship a feature or want to get a prototype out there, things they should look out for the safety side of things?
I love that question, and I think that we are talking about not even a unicorn, but something way larger than that. If there would be the company that targets exactly potential problems that can arise with LLM-generated prototypes and code. The best approaches that I have seen were indeed to learn something that we have learned from software development, not because of the quality of writing code, but because of the already long time of existence of how we are indeed building code, namely version control, testing, and also thinking about the scenarios where we are talking about big amounts. So 3 things, as I mentioned. And if we start with the first one, version control, I can imagine that not many people would be pushing to Git if they are building with Cursor. And then if Cursor, oh no, has changed so much, I can't go back. Where is the history here? I can't roll it back. The best way, again, to do Git. And that is not requiring you to go very deep into understanding the software development practices, to think about, I don't know, classes and instances or something like that. But that would actually already be the way of understanding that, well, I'm building the house and I'm building it with certain potential departments, and I'm thinking about it from this perspective. And I'm able to come back to the previous version if the terrace that I've built there doesn't fit. So generating tests is something that is already it has. So I've been always saying that, well, do tests as soon as you see that there is a certain part of the solution working. Ask to write the unit tests. But that is something where I would still be very much emphasizing how important that should be, and how many errors can be actually solved by that already. And the third part is to consider what will be if this small prototype that I'm using will be used by 1,000 users, will be used by 10,000 users, or 100,000 users. And how exactly can I make it more robust? How can I make it faster? How can I make it more cost efficient? I'm pretty sure that not only software developers are able to answer to those questions. And these 3 considerations, namely version control, testing, and so scalability was a small view on maybe disaster recovery scenarios and fallback scenarios, is something that indeed will make the prototype rather strong.
All valid points. I hope everyone just does a quick 20-minute YouTube video on how to use Git properly. Just set it up. It'll make your life so much easier. It breaks my heart when I see the stories where I was working on a project for 3 months and just lost it all. It's like, oh, it's a lack of education and informing people that these solutions exist, and it's a problem people will encounter. Outside of those 3 important topics, do you see common pitfalls that people fall into when they're implementing AI, whether on the building side or the deployment side or even the user side after it's been put out into the wild?
Well, to be honest, unfortunately, see so many people that are telling me something with regards to, oh, I have of course tried something that you are describing, but then I have seen that it doesn't do what I'm willing to do, and then I have dropped it. That is something that I hear in 90% of cases, not exactly pitfalls, because pitfalls appear if you are going forward, if you are doing steps. But if you are not doing steps, then you don't have any pitfalls. And I will be probably emphasizing very strongly on the consideration to drop the first step of doing the I don't want to call any names, but like the common block-based solutions, because that is probably the prediction of mine that it is very difficult for them right now to remain within the field. At the same time, I can see that the very strong vendor lock-in is happening with such tools, which made sense before, because the slow code solutions where you are only operating with the limited number of blocks and components that you can bring in, that made sense because they were pre-configured for you and then they were running. But then currently, if I am either able to debug the running prototype with some vibe coding tool, or maybe with the software developers that I will indeed hire for several hours, and then we will be solving already many issues of mine, and then I will be able to proceed, I will be sticking to code and something that can edit it.
Excellent. One area I am always curious about that I'd love to explore more is designing user interactions. We're starting to see more and more products pop up where they'll have a little chat box there and you go and you ask it. And it's feeling a little overplayed in my mind, where it's nice having this ability to ask any question, get a response, but you're breaking your flow, you're kind of adjusting your focus. How do you see the AI integration in products evolving in regards to the user interaction side of it?
Well, my great question, and actually there are two sides to it. My personal view, and then also something that I have observed from my consulting background. So on the personal side, I hate typing. And I would love if we start having more voice AI and more of voice interaction things. No matter how fast I'm typing, I will be way faster with talking. So that is the big thing that I'm expecting to come into interfaces. So this whole Alexa, Siri, and comparable tools commands, that is something where I see a lot of potential for improvement. And that is something that I think we will be indeed talking to our laptops, not only to the portable devices that can do the timer or help us with the next playlist to listen to, especially if the cost of such solutions goes lower, which it is already doing by 4 times or 5 times. But then that is the personal side. So I am seeing the interactions with voice, with less of typing, with less of form-based approaches of me feeling in something that I've already done 1,000 times. That is something that I'm observing. But then from the consulting side, I have had a very interesting experience in the healthcare field. So I was working with one of the largest manufacturers of MRI devices. And that was the project where we have been designing, at that time we were calling them AI assistants for radiologists, cancer patients, and general practitioners. So for at least radiologists, you could imagine that you will be having your traditional system, but then you will be also having the AI running in the background. And well, here could come the meme on radiologists, if you have seen that one, with radiologists still going with their traditional cars and no self-driving cars and still doing their work comparably to how they have been doing it before. But back then we were still willing to think about the scenario where radiologists are supported and they are having the validation step after something that they have been looking at was also reviewed by AI. And we have had two big things that after our conversations and after testing, the radiologists have started to give us positive feedback on. Because there have been people who were looking into something like computer vision starting from our century. So they were already bombarded not once by the tools that they needed to label and validate, because everyone was always predicting that we will start using AI tools for analyzing whether a certain MRI image is having a tumor or not. That is still not the case, by the way, of whatever accuracy and whatever studies show. But what we have been looking at is indeed to push again onto the wound that has been always there already for radiologists and try to open the conversation on something that they hated as much as possible because they have been used to, again, labeling experience. And then for us, the question was indeed to make it as less of distraction as possible to bring AI in. And then the designs that we have come up with were indeed to pretty much think about the coloring scheme. So which color would correspond to something that the radiologist has been choosing on the image and has been typing. And by the way, for them, voice technologies have been definitely a big needle mover. But then another thing is indeed the coloring scheme that we have decided to approach, and where we have taken into consideration that the first opinion is taken by a radiologist, but if we are seeing certain confidence scores, then we are bringing a pop-up in, which asks and shows that, well, is maybe there is something, and well, the results have been amazing. So radiologists have been extremely happy to have a certain tool like that, especially because we haven't not only looked into the coloring scheme of the images themselves, but we have also thought about the workflow of radiologists. And then we have realized that they are the people who are, well, currently they are having maybe 2 minutes per a scan to check. So you can imagine that, well, you have the image in front of you, you are like looking into it, you have 2 minutes for that. But at the same time, you are being called by a tumor board, you are being called by a nurse. Someone like a technician would also be trying to reach you out because he needs to understand what should be the values that he's setting on the device to proceed with a certain scan. And it is just the environment that is very, very difficult. So we were also thinking on what parts of the workflow we could bring the interaction with AI into. And this coloring scheme that I have described, we have also brought into something very simple. But in medical world, it is called triaging. In a simpler word, it is in simpler words, it is just pretty much a ranking of the next scans that the radiologist should be looking for. And then we were also bringing a bit of this coloring into that, meaning that we were also showing to the radiologist what things we would like to maybe pay more attention to, because in the 80% of cases, there will be definitely no tumor, or even higher than that. But then in some cases, we would probably like to have additional view on that. And well, that has been my experience, where we have seen that the interaction with AI has indeed been helpful. And even though everyone was always trying to take the whole scanning procedure out of decision-making of radiologists, it is still not the case. But we could have still looked into different, as I mentioned, modes of interacting with AI, and then thinking about how we can help to the radiologist that is having this extreme working scenario.
I'm really glad you brought up that example. So back in 2016, I worked at a company doing secure medical image exchange. And even then, we're like, radiology is on the cusp of being automated. Computers can see more shades of gray. Like, we're going to change the world. And it was slow adopting. But I think you brought up a few really good principles that people should be keep in mind as they're developing these systems. You got to bring the AI to where the users are. If they have to go to someplace else, it breaks the flow and it really reduces the practicality of it. You also have to remember that we're making tools to augment people, not replace them. Even if a AI and a radiologist had the same level of accuracy in predicting images, if it's not meaningfully more improved, people are less likely to adopt it. And then the third is to really just make sure that you're giving value to the people instead of just trying to automate their work. Like, they're actually allowing you to enhance your capability. So I think those are all excellent points, and I'm glad it's approaching more meaningful improvement in the medical space. I think that's one of the biggest unlocks AI is going to present. Any other ideas around user experience that you'd like to share?
I think a very conventional one and surprisingly efficient one. So one of the customers of mine has been reflecting on the topic of how to bring legal conditions of the purchase into the play. And in that case, it was important to consider also, since it was a car reseller, it was important to consider what financing conditions are available. And when they have started to simplify the legal wording of the documents, meaning that if someone was interested in financing, then there was the summary provided based on the different characteristics that were seen from the classified itself, from the maybe from the profile of the user, if that is available, maybe based on the specifics of the car reseller itself. And they have seen the numbers of users opting in for financing way more, which brings me to the point of thinking again, what is the flow that is happening here? What is the feeling that we are having if we would be getting this whole terms and conditions thing brought up to our face? And how this can be simplified, how this can be changed. I'm not talking about completely taking terms and conditions out of the picture. So I would be still indeed bringing them in, because there is no way how we can avoid AI with its non-deterministic behavior to simplify everything in a way that it will be matching the legal vocabulary. But to highlight, I think it is a valid approach. To let users converse and then try to understand, that is a valid approach, because it is difficult to read terms and conditions, let's be honest. So that is where I think that even though the interaction itself isn't that much of a novelty, but still something to think about, because that has shown the very positive effect for both sides, actually.
Excellent. All right, last question for me. I would love to get some of your insight on how, whether it's builders or product managers, can identify the most promising use cases to explore. If they have an idea of a problem they want to solve and they think, hey, how can I bring AI into this? I feel like I have to bring AI. What is a good framework or approach that people can take to not force it in and actually make sure that they're adding value to the end user?
And interestingly enough, in one of the conversations that I have had on my podcast, so on the AI Ketchup podcast, we have been discussing with another person about, with Kavita Ganesan, about what are the good use cases for almost all the companies to look into within the AI space. And then she was actually referring to not at all chatbots to be the best thing to try out. She was referring to recommendation systems. Why? Because you can measure the results of it easily and clearly. It is not having the problem of unstructured data that we are facing with chatbots. It is having the clear business impact. It is having the rather understandable way of introducing it. And then to build on top of what Kavita was referring to, but also to refer to what you have just asked with regards to how to release that. Well, deployment, that is in technical terms called blue-green deployment, but then the consideration of some smaller area to, or maybe the most active users to try that is a valid thing to try. So small experiments validated with numbers, with clear metrics, with not again overwhelming users, because generally it's not necessary. If it is recommendation case, well, you will be seeing whether the recommendation is clicked on or not, right? So there is no need for the 10 pages review of whether the recommendation has been good or what exactly would you like to see next. That is something that is already working. And that is very simple example. At the same time, I think that the wow effect that we are all experiencing when LLMs start bubbling is beautiful. But if we are thinking about collaborating between departments, and we are thinking about collaborating between us as the company and also our potential users, then there are so many variables to think about that the simpler the measurements are, or also in technical terms, evils, the better. And that is something that I would be very happy to give as the takeaway to non-technical audience. Because exactly non-technical audience, meaning not the people that are writing code or creating the workflows for training machine learning models, exactly this audience is the best one to define evaluations. Because exactly these people are having business view. And if I'm hearing certain, well, especially people from the executives, you'd coming to me and asking, oh, I need to bring in AI into my company, and then I need to definitely hire great data scientists, right? But then what you will task this data scientist with? They can't solve your business problems. They are not there for. But that is why I'm referring to evils as something to think about more than what concrete technology to use.
Yep. A well-articulated, robust eval is going to really help define the project moving things forward. Elina, thank you so much for joining us. It was really great getting your insights and expertise. Before we let you go, is there anything you'd like the audience to know?
I would be very glad to share that the topic of product development will be tackled also on my podcast, AI Ketchup. At the same time, I'm having the focus on European part in that. And what I think about European sovereignty is something to think about if we're thinking about ethics in general. It doesn't mean that we are bringing the models only where they are and the physical location of someone, but this aspect of European values, as we refer to them, so democracy, freedom of speech, or freedom of opinion, is something that somehow comes into the play and is very interesting to explore. So I would not be thinking that to close your eyes onto the topic of EU AI Act is something to do if you're based in North America. Because there are interesting best practices to think about, there are interesting learnings, and there are interesting things how both parties can collaborate.
Great. Yeah, and if you're still listening, you're going to love the AI Ketchup podcast, so highly recommend people check it out. Elina, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.